This is Talk It Over, the only dating relationship podcast that begins in bed. Make the time to subscribe. Now let's pull back those sheets.
Can we talk about the relationships? Can we talk it over, see how we can build? Only you and I know that's the way it goes. In this big old bed, they talk it over, so talk it over. Can we talk it over? We can talk it over. Can we talk it over in bed? Talk it over. Can we talk it over? Can we talk it over? Oh, in bed.
Yo, this is your man Big O back for another episode of Talk It Over. I am joined by a lovely guest co-host panel as well as a step-in new, no, not new, I'm gonna take that back. She's not new, she's definitely a veteran at the game, but she's welcome. She's been MIA for a little while, but it's glad to always have her back. My co-host, Miss Rhea Parks, how are you today?
I am well. I'm
Welcome
excited to
back.
be back. Thank you.
So you've had some news recently, some good news come your way professionally, right?
Yes.
You
So
wanna-
so it's the whole process, to get licensed, and I have finally completed the last step, which is passing the national licensing exam. So I'm done. I'm official.
Nice.
So I'm like super excited about that.
And for the people who may be listening for the first time, your licensing is in what?
Marriage and family therapy.
All right. So anybody who has problems or needs therapy, come find Rhea.
Yes,
And it's
come find me.
it's the Black Therapist, right?
Correct.
On Instagram.
Yep, Instagram and Twitter. And then I have a Facebook page, which is in my practice name, Mind, Body, and Spirit, Marriage and Family Therapy.
Awesome. I know who to hit up when I have problems. So let me go ahead and bring in the guest co-hosts that are joining us today for our topic. So we have Alexandra joining us out of LA, nice and sunny weather. How are you today?
I'm doing fabulous. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us and being back. We're definitely looking forward to diving in today's topic. I think it kind of falls right in line with the book that you just published, which is What Not to Date. But I'm gonna let you have the first word on that and let our guests hear from you directly. So, but thank you for being in, Andrew.
So my background is in higher education. I've worked at about 2 universities. My background's in admissions and residence life, and I have my master's degree in college student affairs. But just as of recently, my biggest interest and my career goal or ultimate goal is comedy. So I love comedy, grown up around it, love stand up. I even take my parents, when the bars and stuff were open, we would go to comedy clubs and I would take my friends.
Wow.
And yeah,
Okay.
So to date, I've only done 1 open mic, so I'm ready for the world to open back up because I have a joke book that every time I find something funny or I'm with my friends, I go and write it down because I don't want to forget. I don't like writing notes in my phone. I'd rather read them and write them. So yeah.
The tactile sensation of taking it down. I get it.
Yeah.
And so can people find you anywhere? Do you have a content on any of the, let them know.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just starting to put content on my Instagram. My Instagram name is actually Tall Girl with Jokes. So it's pretty easy to find me.
Tall Girl with Jokes.
Tall Girl with Jokes. I'm 5'10" and all full of all love. So I'm definitely, that's where you can find me. I'm also on Tinder, or not Tinder. No, I was on Tinder.
You are on Tinder.
I have a YouTube video that Tinder actually sponsored. You can find that too. It's called Swipe City, and I'm the episode of the girl in Chicago. So definitely check that out. Yeah.
Well, we need to get some of that Tinder love. We need to definitely get some Tinder. Tell them to come over to Talk It Over, and we can promote them as well. They can promote us. So,
yeah, absolutely.
And last but not least, always a pleasure to have my brother Hassan, bringing in the rear. How are you today?
Peace, my brother. Peace and power, abundance to all. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So where are you at right now? I see a lot of beautiful art behind you.
I'm actually in my bed, and that's some of the art that I created that's in back of me.
What?
Wow.
Okay, so this is your personal. Do you sell those for prints? Can people find that, or is it
Actually, this is one of my side pursuits. You know what I mean? It's
okay?
something I've always been able to do. So now, I'm going to be making some murals, some prints, some wallpaper, some other things with it.
Oh, nice,
This
nice.
is my collection one, but I also have a collection two. So yeah,
Well, let me know when the open house starts.
no doubt,
Let me
my
know when the
brother.
gallery starts and they go up for sale.
Right. So in addition to being an author, I'm also an artist. I'm a
Nice.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean it's 2021 now, man. You got everybody's got to wear multi hats. You got to get it in any way you can now.
Indeed, we all have multiple capacities for
Very true.
you know what I mean. Often we just don't explore the other dimensions of ourselves. So at this point in time, it's just just been that time for me to expand and explore more of me. So I'm
Nice.
enjoying the journey, and invite others to embark on their own journey. Because it's a whole new world.
Like it. Yeah, just let me know when you're ready to start offering commissions.
Oh, no doubt. Well, listen, without saying, man, you know what I mean? And I'm a businessman, I'm a serial entrepreneur, right? So, business first. So I'm always open for negotiations. All that, indeed.
Beautiful. All right. Well, hopefully that's going to pay off with a lot of listeners. I know there's a lot of ideas out there floating around in the ether, and Talk It Over is growing exponentially. So I'm sure some stuff is going to come your way just by the outreach that we're starting to grow into. But let me go ahead and move on into the feel good story of the day. Um, as always, we like to bring this in and start the show with this because the world, it's very easy to find bad news, right? You don't even have to look for it. We're inundated all the time with bad news. So we want to bring in on a high note all of our shows. And today's feel good story is a very, very personal one by way of one of our producers, Anna Banana, who sent this. And it's very touching. So I'll go ahead without further ado, just bring it in. An 8-year-old who unfortunately passed away almost 2 years ago. An 8-year-old had her legacy was continued by three best friends who decided to start a nonprofit in her memory for helping animals. So Scarlett uh, Chwatko. I hope I'm saying that right. Um, she was 8 years old and started a volunteer effort to raise money for shelter animals in Westchester. Her idea was very simple. She said for every $20 that someone donated to the SPCA, she personally would draw their pet. Now she was a third grader at the time at Roaring Brook Elementary School, and she came up with a logo for the initiative that she called Draw for Paws. She passed, unfortunately, in March of 2019 after a long battle with cancer. But her three best friends, Annabelle, Grace, and Tate, took up Scarlett's cause to help animals. Um, Grace, one of her friends, had this to say about Scarlett, that she was very caring. She always put others first, and she loved animals. As Grace decided she wanted to keep this going and wanted to do something to honor her. So the three best friends, which were third graders, decided to name themselves the Scarly Squad after Scarlett. And in less than 2 years, the Scarly Squad has signed up 75 kid artists nationwide and has raised more than $50,000 for animal rescues. They have made hundreds of portraits from photos, um, and their organization, Draw for Paws, which is now a registered nonprofit, thanks to Scarlett's mom. They decided to reach out to various animal welfare and rescue organizations, and they focused on coming up with an initiative on pet food. Because what they learned was that families were in need, especially during the pandemic, that, with the financial constraints affecting so many people, that the pets were suffering as well because they couldn't afford to feed them. And so they organized a couple of pet drives in November. They delivered over 1,500 pounds. And then they partnered with a food pantry in New Rochelle called Hope Community Services, which is a nonprofit organization that runs programs such as, a food pantry, soup kitchen. And what they did, thanks to the Scarlet Squad and the Draw for Paws initiative, they were able to deliver an additional 2,300 pounds of pet food. The executive director of Hope had this to say about their initiative. He said, "We saw long lines here. We gave out more food from March to December than they had in the last 10 years combined. And they saw needs that people hadn't really expressed before, and being able to feed their pet was one of those needs." And then the article, which people can find at LOHUD, LOHUD.com, goes on to talk about Scarlett and her life, and how she just, everyone who met her just knew she had an immediate love for animals. She actually worked at a rescue shelter where, when the shelters would bring in new puppies or new animals, they would actually ask kid volunteers to help make the animals feel safe and welcome. And Scarlett was one of those kids who just exhibited a huge amount of love for the animals that came into the shelter. And she practically adopted one of the dogs that came in, named Ollie. And they said Ollie and her were inseparable from the moment they met through her entire illness and treatment and unfortunate passing. But yeah, this just goes on to talk about how much of a good soul she was as a caregiver for animals and pets, those who can go looked over sometimes in the ongoing pandemic. So I thought that was amazing. When I read it, I almost teared up. I was like, and I'm not even that huge of an animal lover, but I was like, just for her to have that empathy at such a young age and be able to start that, and then be surrounded by, friends who decided to continue it in her honor, to have such an impact. I was like, that's the kind of story, that's the kind of stuff that I want to hear in 2021 and going forward. So how you guys feeling? You guys good?
Yes, great.
All right, good. So real quick, we were just joined, Brother Sean Ali. Welcome. How are you today?
All right, peace and blessings.
Glad to have you back with us, brother. Rhea, we good to go?
We are all set to go.
So let our listeners know what the topic of the day, what we're going to be diving into in this big old bed and talk it over.
So, we always come with phenomenal topics, and today is no different. So today's topic is, what are your biggest fears when starting a new relationship? Because we all have them, wouldn't we agree?
Yeah, I'm gonna let the other guests take that one. I got some fears that I might disclose. Later. I want to see what everybody else says first.
There's definitely, we all have fears with starting relationships, starting new jobs, and things of that nature, right, guys?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think this is kind of right up your alley, Alexandra, because you have a book called What Not to Date, right? And that almost sounds like a lot of life experiences just based on like, hey, I already know what's out there. I could tell you from jump what you should be afraid of if it comes your way.
Yes, it's true. And the first chapter actually is called Love and Other Drugs. And this my personal story about my relationship with my ex-fiance. And it was beautiful relationships at the beginning, but as you know, as Russians say, at the beginning, it's all about flowers and chocolate and champagne, and later it turns into sour tomatoes, they say. So
it's not vodka. They don't turn into vodka.
No, it goes with vodka only at the moments of again, huge disappointment, and some people go that route. But
okay. So what fears do you have if you were to start? Are you currently dating, or what fears have you learned or picked up from your experience that you think you now may carry into
I think my fear is not to get disappointed. To me, disappointment is more painful than actually breaking up, or in my case, when I broke off my engagement with my ex-fiance. The first, I would say, the reason was disappointment, because he made a confession that he had cheated on me, and he was the only man that I trusted fully and completely. And because of he broke that trust, very strong trust, it was a huge and very painful disappointment. And the fear I have is mistrust, even though my new relationships, when I decide to go with my clarity and knowing what I want and whom I want in my life, is
Yeah, that's, I mean, that's very,
to have the trust, because this new guy has nothing to do with my previous relationship, and it would be, yes.
so Rhea, real quick, because I want to get the other guests in here. Is that something that is just human in nature, just the past relationships that can turn into fears, whether they're rational or not, right? Is that something that
Absolutely, because the thing is, we're informed based on our experiences. And if our experience has shown us that I've been in this relationship, I fully trusted this person, and I was disappointed, that will be a thought, like as you move into the next relationship, or as you kind of navigate your relationships throughout life. So one of the key things is, one, being very aware that this has been my experience, but then also like what Alejandra said, is just not blaming the new person in your relationship because that was a past thing that happened with somebody else. So just being very aware of that. So absolutely.
okay? Andrew, I want to get your thoughts in here, because so you in education and now you're in comedy. I'm sure you have a very, very unique take on this, as well as life experience that you can lend to our listening audience. What do you have any fears that are prominent in dating?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. So when I got the topic, I started writing immediately, like fears, and even like looking in my like life personally, like
How many
with what's
pages did
been
you
going
make?
on. So I almost got to 2 pages.
Okay.
But
All right.
so I think that like one of my fears, well, a couple of my fears, it kind of was what Alexandria said, in regards to like trust, but mine is with someone being dishonest with their feelings, with what their expectation or their intentions are. And so a fear of mine now, and something that I've, since 2021 has occurred, I think for me, like in everything that I do, I want to be free flowing. I don't want expectations, because I feel when you set up those expectations, that's when you set up the disappointment, the hurt, and all that. So it's like, it's kind of hard though, because as humans, you do have things that you expect that you want to happen, or things that you want, but then sometimes when it doesn't happen that way, you know, it just upsets you. And then I think one that like really stuck to me, and like for me, was addressing red flags when they happen. So that's a fear for me, is when I see a lot of times as humans, like we see red flags, but it's like, I think that this person, you know,
You kind of
maybe this is just the
rationalize it.
beginning.
Yeah,
Right, we
you
make
want to justify it.
Yeah,
we make excuses for it. And I think that like for me now, when I see red flags, I address them right then and there, because if this is something that's going to occur, I'd rather nip it in the bud now than waste my time
What's
months later.
a minor red flag for you? Like what's a small one, not a big one. Like what's a small
Wow. Okay, because I had a big one that happened to me last week, and so I would definitely say a small red flag for me is timeliness.
Okay, so if they show up, or they're behind or late, or they're just tardy and stuff,
Yeah, because
or
that shows a lot of things for me. Like if we want to have a future together and you don't know how to be on time, I don't think you're going to be able to pay bills on time, and I don't need that. I don't want it.
okay,
So
all right.
So
So
that's for me.
let me get the other guests in here, Hassan and Brother Ali. Brother Ali, what do you think as far as fears that you personally may bring into when you're dating someone new, or just in general?
And that's a great question. And I have a health and wellness business, and we deal with, because your personal life is a part of your health and wellness.
Right.
So we start with the language. Instead of calling it a fear, I call it pros and cons, because that fear, with the definition of the word and the usage of that word, you're going to get fearful things in return. You're going to be scared and maybe hold yourself back from necessarily going forward. But as always, I mean, at 47, what I look for from a person is way different than at 37 and 27. Right. So now what I don't need a person to complete me, validate me, help me pay bills, go half on any. I just need company. I need somebody that will have an intelligent conversation, that will spend time. If we don't even necessarily have to like the same things, because that makes it more interesting, but I just need company. So as I grow older, like I say, the things that I'm bringing and the things that I'm seeking are changing. So I don't have a type anymore, because I found out that that's baggage. I'm looking for a type. You're not my type. You don't have. I got a checklist, and what this does is, even though it protects my feelings, it's disingenuous to that person because it doesn't allow them to be themselves.
Well,
So
let me ask you this.
I'm already creating conflict, fiction. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I hear everything you're saying, and I definitely think we should definitely spend a lot of time, maybe not today's podcast, but on the so-called type, the so-called prototype, because there's a lot of flack going back and forth that I see on a daily basis between people's judgment over, if you have a preference, right? And everybody has a preference. But I do want to ask, because you're at the stage now where you said what you're looking for is companionship, you're not looking for. So at this stage, do you have any red flags at all? As Andrew kind of mentioned before, do you have anything that automatically sets your radar off where you're like, all right, you know what? I know what I'm looking for, and it's not that.
Yes, and I do, but it's when we look at to answer the question, yes. I don't call it red flags. If you know what I like and you know what I don't like, if you choose to do the things that I don't like, you don't have to tell me anything. Now it's up to me to whether to move on or stay. If I stay, I can't blame you.
Okay.
Because you showed me who you are. So if I choose to keep walking with you, that's no longer a red flag. That's no longer a warning. That's a choice. I have accepted who you are, so I can't never use that against you in the future.
Got it.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm never going to say, well, you didn't do what I think. Right, you feel me? Because now I'm hurting myself as well as that person.
And I think that's a huge, huge part of personal.
And that eliminates that fear.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I think that's a huge, a lot of things
eliminates that fear factor.
Yeah, a lot of things that we, oftentimes through our various topics that we discuss, the subject of personal growth comes up a lot. And I think what you're alluding to just is right in that vein where you're saying like, hey, this person showed me who they were. It is now on me to decide whether or not I have to make a conscious choice, whether or not I'm going to accept that and the frustration that brings, or cut ties and move on for something else. So one of the things that my father said to me when I was, going to him and just saying, I had questions about my relationship, and I'm thinking like, is this, am I doing it wrong? Is this the norm? And he just said very succinctly, you got to take the good with the bad. And that just made me realize like, oh, wow, you know what? This is a whole person. This is a whole person. This is not, I guess, like I said before, a prototype. This is not a model. This is a whole person. That whole person is going to have things that I like and enjoy about them. And that person is going to have things that I can't stand. And it goes back to what you're saying, Brother Ali, that it's the choice is mine. The choice is mine. So Let me get Hassan in here because I know Hassan, you drop the mic. The mic is smoking every time Hassan comes in. I want to get Hassan in here and on anything that has been said from all of our guests, from Alexandra, from Andrew, anything that you want to address that spoke to you.
Well, thank you for the illustrious introduction. I appreciate it. And thank everyone for sharing. I appreciate it. I was just thinking about the fear and the acronym of fear, like fear, false evidence appearing real, right? And that's sometimes my challenge when attempting to start a new relationship or meeting someone and with aspirations of being in a relationship with them, but often it's me and not them, because I can be an enemy in my own head by what swirls around inside of it, telling me that, it might tell me I'm too old, they're too young, that I'm not worthy of that person. Some of my other insecurities can arouse, I'm wondering why I feel that, it could be that boyish excitement with the butterflies in my stomach, and I'm overzealous, and I'm like, damn, am I calling this person too much? I want them to call me. I'm sitting by the side, and then
your mind starts talking to you.
Exactly. I don't hear from that person. I'm like, damn, maybe they don't want to be with me. And it's like the drama that goes into my head,
Right.
That could really take me on a little emotional roller coaster. Sometimes
that inner monologue.
Sometimes it's a huge roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
So
do you have any tips? Do you have any tips for how you can kind of quiet that inner monologue or make sure it doesn't?
I was approaching that. It's a process, So personally, I have to evaluate, and get right with me, and know that, what, this is just like an adventure, right? So whatever it's gonna be, it's gonna be good, So if the person or me, either or of us, friend zone the other person, it's cool, because then I got a friend. I'm developing a new friend.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I know that going forward, in time that I'll get with that right person. And then if I'm overzealous and jumping into something, I could miss something and be in something that I might not want to be in. I might be in an entanglement.
Are we bringing that into 2021? We can't leave that.
Yes, indeed.
We can't leave that in 2020. We're bringing that in.
You wake up, you're with somebody, you're like, who the hell is this, right?
Right.
I don't really want to be with this person, right?
So
but I strive to move courageously.
Okay.
Because if I move with courage, then I know, what? It's like, despite the little fear, uncomfortability I feel, I'm going forward, and I'm allowing, the divine to determine the outcome.
Right. Okay.
Because everything that I think is good for me is not
good for me. Yeah.
And I'd be like, okay, thank God that I didn't get in.
You dodged that bullet. Yeah. That's awesome. So guys, something I want to mention real quickly in the absence of my lovely co-host Trish. Can't wait for you to return. We're actually launching a new segment that is going to be called the Love Corner, where Trish and our sex coach Jen Infantino will be taking questions from guests and listeners in the realm of love, relationships, and sex, and they're going to be answering them live in a new portion. Let's take a real quick break and get a word from our sponsors, and then we're coming right back at you.
Hey guys, it's Trish from Talk It Over, the only dating relationship podcast that begins in bed. So, I told you guys last week that we were coming to you with a new segment called the Love Corner. I can't wait for this segment. Myself and resident pleasure coach Jen Infantino are going to be bringing to you questions and answers regarding love, relationship, and sex. If you have any questions you would like answered, feel free to write in at talkitover.show on Instagram. Until then, peace, love, and good sex.
And we are back. And for those just joining us, the topic of the day that we're knocking around in this big old bed is based on fear. What are your biggest fears or concerns when starting a new relationship? So let's go ahead and pick it up. I was going to ask Rhea, because again, you're dropping so many pearls of wisdom and knowledge. And I wanted to ask Rhea really quickly, is there a source within all of us that fear, or the cons, or the, like you said, we basically make decisions off of our experience? Is there a way to not necessarily negate the experience, because it makes you who you are, but to make sure it doesn't become irrational and affect your availability, your openness to receive when you are out there?
I think we have to, because you're right, that will always be there and you don't want to negate it. I think we just have to be very aware that it exists. And I always go back to when you notice yourself doing things, always ask the why. When you ask yourself the why, you'll be able to identify if your why is attached to a rational thought or if it's attached to something irrational. And if it's irrational, you need to sit with yourself and figure out, okay, like, what is this about? Like, why is this my go-to, or why do I respond in this way?
Okay. And one of the things that I want to know is, can you, let's say you've asked yourself that why, right?
Yep.
And the answer that you come with, whatever it is, gives you confidence to continue to move forward, but that fear is still there, right? Can
Yep.
you build, and this is I'm gonna open this up to Alexandra, to Andrew, anybody that wants to take this. Do you think you can build a healthy relationship that's rooted in fear? Will that, even though things are going great and that fear is still nagging you, would you consider that, do you think that's going to erode the relationship?
No.
Or do you think it's going to, what do you think, Brother Ali? I heard you say no.
You're gonna find what you're looking for. You're gonna find what you're looking for.
Okay. So
Your
you think the fear is going to drive?
Which is your perception sets what you focus on. So right, if you have already written down a fear, you're going to find that. That's why they say be careful what you're looking for. So if it's a fear about something that hasn't happened yet, that means I'm not present. Because presently I have no reason to be fearful. So if it's a fear about something you may do, see, now that's not on you. That's like Brother Hassan said, that's me and my own thinking.
That's your mind. Yeah, like your mind talking to yourself. Yeah. Yeah. Andrew, what do you think? What do you think? You think you can build a healthy relationship based out of fear? Or not based out of fear, but just saying the fear is there. It's not based, but
I mean, I have in the past, and it didn't really work.
Now, was your fear realized, or was it something totally different?
I think it was realized, but I think for me, because I think that we both had different fears, and I think that also plays a part in it too, because people have different fears, and I think their fears may affect them differently and may trigger them differently. Like, it could stem from trauma, could stem from anything. So I think it could just depend on, like, specifically what the fears are. And obviously for me, in my situation, it didn't work out, but I mean, I got a good friendship out of it, so I'm not upset.
Okay, so the romantic side ended, but you still have a relationship with the friend side.
Well, we'll just say it's a little complicated.
Here we go. You all right. I'll let you speak on that if you want.
I think though, I just want to jump in, because there's a statement that I always tell my clients: where my thoughts go, my energy flows. The same way that we can manifest our dreams and our goals and all that other stuff, we can also play into that, and we can allow our fears to manifest if that's literally where we're putting our energy to. Even if it's not there, our perception, we'll start to look for it, even if it's not present, like Brother Ali was saying.
So, okay, so following that, Alexandra, I want to ask you, right? Because you, in your book, that you do talk about sometimes just like meeting the same guy, right, over and over, just different avatars, but it's the same person. So, piggybacking off of what Rhea just said, where your thoughts flow, what'd you say, Rhea? You said where your thoughts go.
Where our thoughts go, my energy flows.
Your energy flows. So do you think, in your experience, did you feel like that, Tatiana, when you finally broke that mold? Did you go reflect and feel like I was attracting the same guy because of that fear of attracting the same guy?
Yes, it did actually happen. And I think fear can overcome and kind of correct the same mistake I made of choosing or selecting the same guy egocentric, selfish, narcissistic, and I guess this perceived notion of attractiveness always, at least in my case, made me choose the wrong guy. But I've learned from my dating and my love experience that any fear can be overcome by communicating from the beginning of the new relationships. This is what I'm looking for, and as Andrea said, that honesty and decency, and not demanding but asking for civil and honest and timely communication. And if you speak of your fears, I think it opens up more chances and more doors for that person I want to date to also speak up of his own fears. So I believe, again, any fear can be overcome by communicating and just being honest, from the very beginning.
Okay.
And at the very beginning of new relationships.
Okay. So Rhea, when you in your practice, Rhea, do you have clients that are in that mindset where they're just what they're complaining about or not or bringing to you is maybe a fear that's not real at the moment, but something that may have been a baggage that they're bringing through, or like Andrew said, a red flag that their thoughts are focused on, but is not actually the reality of what's happening?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that happens. So people will oftentimes have that go on even outside of like romantic relationships. Sometimes it will, so I know I had somebody who was bipolar, needed to be on medication, but she had this fear that because somebody she knew was on medication and had a really adverse effect, that for her, medication wasn't an option. And literally, as we're talking, I was like, okay, so how many people has this been their experience? And when we got to it, it was just one.
Just the one, yeah.
And I was like, so one person had a bad experience, and based off that one experience, you are just completely ruling out medication. And when we talked about it, she realized that that was just irrational for her to rule out any sort of medication based off of one person's experience.
Wow. Okay. All right. So yeah, thank you for that. That's huge. Brother Hassan, what are your thoughts as far as what I spoke about earlier, building, can you develop a healthy relationship if that fear is ever present, regardless if it's actually happening or not?
Based on my experiences, no. Fear, there's just so many roots of fear, within an individual. So if I'm ultimately fearful that way, it could definitely sabotage the development and the growth of a relationship, because there's like, you're bringing like insecurity and low self-worth and confusion, like false evidence appearing real. So you can't be delusional. You can't be delusional if you're trying to grow a wholesome relationship, because it's a shaky foundation.
Let's flip that on his head. Let's flip it on his head. Let's say you're with someone, you're dating someone, and you realize that the issues, like you said, the insecurities that they're bringing is a fear based off of a past experience. How do you, if you want to continue that relationship and cultivate it, how do you go about trying to assuage those fears and convince that person that you're seeing, like, hey, you're bringing this in based off of an experience, and I'm giving, truth because that was your experience, but that's not the reality today, right? You're letting your past and your mind bring in things to the relationship that don't exist. How do you go about that?
Well, this is the thing. I wouldn't get to that point, because
you wouldn't give them the doubt.
All those issues, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to enter it at this point in the game. I'm astute enough to see if a person is bringing that kind of heaviness, that kind of weight to just to our association, And I'm not going to want to be in a relationship with someone that much baggage, because it's going to be turmoil. It's going to be uncomfortable, and it's not going to work over long term. I already know that. I can't act like I don't know what I know.
We're about to
When
get
I was
juicy
a
here.
youngster, I
We're about to
did.
get juicy here, Rhea. Is that not a fear of it in and of itself? The fear
Say
that
that
this
again?
person, is that not a fear in and of itself? That the person that you're cutting off might not be able, so you're placing on them saying they're not astute, they're not developed
No, I
enough to
didn't
have.
say that. I said that when I meet someone, right,
Uh-huh.
before it gets to that point, usually I'm not going to enter into a relationship with someone I don't know, right? So in the
Okay.
process of getting to know them, it's like from my experiences, right? There's a great chance that I'm going to identify that person has fears, insecurities, et cetera, right?
Okay.
So I'm not going to go any further. I'm not going to go that deep with that person,
Why
because I
not?
already know how uncomfortable that's going to be if we keep engaging. It's like,
Okay.
I'm not trying to fix that person. It's like, you got to fix yourself. That's not my job. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, 100%.
So I don't want no dependent. You know what I'm saying? I don't want another child.
Do y'all agree with Hassan? Do y'all feel like, yeah, he's on the money with that? Or does anybody have a difference of opinions? Like, if I care enough about that person, I might ride with them if I know that they're trying to get over that hump. Is that not what companionship and partnership is about? Like, let's say that
would be on the individual, bro. I mean,
okay, well, that's what I'm asking. I'm asking if anybody else out there feels like do they agree that they would just cut that off, or they feel like they have the capacity?
Like, you just add one thing. I just want to add one thing.
Yep.
Now, there's different, say, if I'm with someone and engage with them, and we got some time, man, and some stuff aroused that, that slipped through the cracks during the initial, association and
the courting
with this person, that's
right.
different. So say I'm with someone and they got some mental health issues, you know what I'm saying? That wasn't aware of or developed over time, as they often do as we get older. No, I'm not going to abandon that person. Then, I'm going to work with them. But what we're talking about new relationships. So with a new relationship, it's like those things can be identifiable if I'm paying attention, right?
Okay.
And I'm like, you know what? Let me slow down. I don't think I want to go down that rabbit hole with this person, because it could be chaotic. It could be crazy. And I've had enough crazy before.
Right. Your cup runneth over, right?
Right.
Your cup runneth over. You like, I've had enough. Alexandra, what do you think? I saw you kind of poke in. It looked like you wanted to interject real quick.
Yes, and again, it's going back to my first chapter, Love and Other Drugs. So my ex-fiance was severely depressed, and he was always feeling insecure and not confident. He was feeling that he's not too good enough for me. So that was not the case, but I do agree with Hassan that we are individuals and we are responsible for our own choices and fixing our own insecurities. And I'm not responsible, or I'm not entering these relationships knowing that you have that baggage or this insecurity issues, because insecurity breeds or causes a lot of jealousy, a lot of drama, and mistrust.
Okay. See, I hear y'all, and I'm thinking I want to get Brother Ali in here, because he hit the nail on the head when it said it boils down, it goes back to that person's choice. And so, Alexandra and Hassan, you see those red flags, and let's say I'm not going to enter in the next stage. We're in the courting, dating area, and I'm not going to enter in. And my thought process, and this may just be me, I may be a population of one. My thought process, it really depends on what that particular fear or insecurity is, and based on myself, what I potentially see with that person, right? If let's say, regardless, because we could go through so many contexts, but it would be a choice, as Brother Ali mentioned before.
But that's how we move out, bro. You're right.
No, that's how you got it right. And and like unless a person like we don't the basis of relationships aren't to fix each other. It's
Right.
companionship. You know, we watch movies and TVs and are taught, okay, well, you gotta be this and you're insecure, that's your completion, you're secure. Like, okay, that can be added on, but that's two people agreeing with it. But if I know that I'm not compatible with you, I got a choice. I can keep going or I can turn away. But if I keep going, I have to know that it's not
You're
you.
accepting those.
You know, I mean,
You're accepting that turmoil.
that's the choices we make. And as individuals, right. I've been with people that people have said, hey, that's not a good look for you. I know her. I don't think you should be with her. But in my head, I didn't know her like you know her. So I know if from how I know her, I'm going to proceed.
Gotcha.
It didn't work out, but not because of what other people were saying.
Right.
But
right.
it's a choice that I had to keep going. So she can't hurt me because I know what I'm proceeding in this. So it's not a fear, it's me going. So if we depart at the end, it's not a hurt. It's not these are the things that we should start incorporating with these type of conversations. You know, like it's like I chose to be with you.
Right.
Like
let me get Andrew in here.
If I choose not to, it shouldn't be based on something you did. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Yeah, let me get Andrew in here because I want to know based off of what everybody said where you stand. And let me just make the caveat that like everyone said, it's not my job to fix you. But I think if I identify that you are working on it, then I'll be willing to help you. But I'm not going to be the one that turns it around because it is self-work. That's work that you got to do. I can't do it for you.
Oh yeah.
So what are your thoughts, Andrew?
So I mean, for me, I it's crazy that we're having this conversation because like I literally just had a situation where my friend did something and it was something that obviously I felt like I needed to speak up on, and it was something that made me feel a way. But sometimes I think it also depends on the person and if they're ready to hear it, also that level of accountability as well. So I think when I do try to like talk to people or tell them things that I've noticed or maybe identified, I usually try to come from a place of love. But it just also depends on that receiver, right? That's like receiving feedback. So most times when I do try, it just seems like it's always a fight. So I think for me, like, it just depends on the person. I can tell you all the things in the world and you can either believe me or not believe me. That's also another thing too. A lot of times you tell people things because you love them, but some people don't always see those issues or those problems that they may do because they're used to doing it
in their love language. Did you tell them in their love language that they could understand? No, I'm just messing with you. I'm messing with you.
But yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to get final thoughts from Alexandra, then Hassan and Brother Ali, and then Ria. But final thoughts, Alexandra. What are your thoughts on allowing fear to color, starting a new relationship? Should you listen to it and be aware? Should you? What are your thoughts? I don't want to censor you.
Not everybody is strong and very confident or completely secure. We all have imperfections and we do have fears. And if we recognize the fears the other person has, and you like that person, you infatuated with him, or you understand that person, maybe you went through the same and you have the same fears. But when it goes to the level of very high extreme level of being very depressed and stressed out, and then I can't help you. And as they say, I want to help you, but you help me to help you. But I do believe that any fears can overcome. But if you like that person and if you see you connect with that person on many levels, on intelligent and maybe emotional and physical attraction level, then, and if you find that person as a good person and very good human being, and you try to work together on those fears that that the other person has, and you might share the same fears. And again, maybe it sounds that the fears, as Brother Ali said, that maybe
Okay.
it can be another approach, to, because people always afraid of those fears of like fears of being lonely, or
Right.
fears of being or getting into new relationships.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that, brother Ali. Final thoughts.
All right. Yes. I do. Even though I said we should use pros and cons. I mean, I understand the usage of the word fear and how it can prepare us to not get tricked, and that if you see something in that person and you say, hey, I want to keep walking with that person for a long term, then put your fear aside and just go ahead with your decision. If you see something that like a red flag or a warning, then you have every right to go ahead and walk away. It's almost 8 billion people on the planet Earth. So 1 out of 8 billion, that is nothing. So we can definitely find somebody that's compatible to us, with us, for us out here on this planet Earth. So to have a fear, sometimes we got to check that to make sure it's not irrational and that I'm not making somebody do something that I can't even do.
Right.
You know
Okay.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So like loyalty, like am I as loyal as I want somebody else to be? Am
Right.
I, you know what I mean? Am I
Right.
as committed as I'm asking you to be? Because that can be a fear of another
Right.
person's commitment to me.
You
You
could
know
be
what I mean? So
projecting. You could be
just that, I
projecting
mean,
your
like I
own
say, just,
faults.
we don't know. We don't know. It's always I can wake up, right, but I don't know what you're going to do tomorrow. I don't know what I'm going to
Okay.
do tomorrow.
All right.
I know what throughout the whole day. So it's easy for two people, like you said earlier, to do something that we don't like. You know what I mean?
All right. Appreciate it. So brother Hassan, what are your final thoughts on everything?
Every experience is different. When we meet someone in a new relationship, it's great to have an open mind. There could be some apprehensions, just because it's new and we're all in our heads. And, I would suggest to someone just to ride it out and be honest with themselves on, what they're willing to accept and what they aren't willing to accept. You know what I mean? It's like,
Okay.
yeah, there are, some, issues or character flaws that someone can have. There could be deal breakers, and then the others that you can work with. So,
Okay.
it's all on an individual basis. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's the process. And it's different at every stage of our lives too, because me being the oldest person in the room right now, you know what I mean? It's like my perspective is different from when I was 40, right?
Mm.
Or when I was
Mm.
30, or even when I was
Mm-hmm.
50, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, each phase is different. There's
Yeah,
different
you're a different person. You're a new person.
exactly different things to consider. You know what I mean? It's like, does she like
So
me? Am I gonna be able to perform? Am I gonna
right.
be too much older than this
You
person?
got all
You
different
know,
other types of fears coming in.
exactly. You know what? If I'm with this person, are they gonna like take care of me if I get sick? Are they gonna be beating me up if I'm in a wheelchair? You know what I mean? So
let me let me get I want Rhea to flex her newly licensed therapy on me. I'm gonna throw in one last wrinkle, then we're gonna wrap it up. So with all the talk of fear, one of mine, I just disclosed this because I didn't before, but I was in a situation, my personal fear was this is too good to be true. I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I was just like, there's no way this is a real person. There's no way this is really happening. Like how, and I hit the lottery here. Like when is the other shoe going to drop? So do you think that is also a very sneaky type of fear that I brought into that situation? What are your thoughts, final thoughts on it?
So I don't know if I would necessarily categorize that as fear, but maybe a little bit of self-sabotage. And that when something appears to be too good, not that we're intentionally looking for it to go bad, but if that's all we know, or that has been the majority of our experience, we have the tendency of either causing feathers to ruffle, as to self-sabotage because it's too good to be true. But honestly, I think I'm gonna say it anyways. So I think a little bit of fear is healthy. Yeah. As long as you know that it's attached to a rational thought. Okay. So if I've only experienced bad relationships, I can utilize that fear in a proactive way to find and experience something completely different than what I'm accustomed to.
Got it.
So.
Got it. All right. Well, thank you all. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for sharing. I want to thank Anna Banana. I want to thank K.I., the producers, and Bumpy. And thank you as well, Brother Hassan. And in the loves, in the word of K.I., slow motion.
All right. Hey everybody. Thank you all. That was really good. That was awesome. I love the conversations that you all are having, because it keeps me off the airwaves. I actually don't have to come on and insert anything because you all are speaking to all of the talking points that I would have brought up and mentioned. So thank you. Thank you, Brother Sean Ali. Will you come back and join us?
Yes, sir. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's a pleasure having you. Miss Alexandria, will you come back and join us?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Oh, my pleasure. All right. I'm not even gonna ask Andrew. Andrew, you regular, moving around you got to give us a tour of your house. Actually, you already did give us a tour of your house.
Right. I'm trying to concentrate on everything people are saying. I'm looking at the screen like, where's she going?
Yeah, she like, I live up in a mansion up in here.
No, I'm at my parents' house. So like for me, I have to move around. Like I'm just I've learned a lot about myself this past week that I'm like,
you gotta be active.
Yes, I have to. Okay. Otherwise, like that's just like how I pay attention and how I listen. Like, so if I move around too much,
no, it's all good. You're literally actively listening. Sister Rhea, thank you. Look, your last point, that was the mic dropper, right? We could just all that was a great way to conclude the podcast.
Right.
So thank you for that. Brother Hassan, of course, a wonderful addition to the podcast as not only one of our guest co-hosts, but also as one of our co-producing partners. We're so thankful and grateful to have you aboard. Thank you so much. And Big O, keeping you in the know. Thank you.
I tried to throw that Tinder plug in there for you.
Yeah.
You got to get Andrew on it.
That's all right. We're going to work on it. Yes. Thank you so much, Big O. It's not easy managing and maintaining having 5 other voices on. And I think everybody would agree that you do it with precision and professionalism, humor, wit.
Appreciate it. It's just a joy to have this many people on here and have so many different points of views, and everybody's being so gracious with sharing. So thank you guys.
Thank you all once again. And slow motion and
You've been listening to Talk It Over, the only dating relationship podcast that begins in bed. We hope you got what you needed. Make sure you subscribe. Holla at you next week.